Hi guys, welcome back to Movie Chat and More, and if you're here for the very first time, welcome. Today we're going to be talking Rocky. Finally, as you can see, I'm dressed for the occasion. Ain't so bad, you ain't nothing. Great t-shirt, I love this t-shirt. So yeah, dressed for the occasion, we're going to be talking about the Rocky movies. It's been a long time coming. Considering the Rocky films are probably my second favorite movie franchise after Halloween. And maybe in between Friday the 13th too. Somewhere in between. Anyway, ranking the Rocky films. Now, I'm not going to be ranking these films as this is the best one, this is the worst one, this is the one that's not great, but it's okay. I'm not going to be ranking the Rocky films in that fashion. This is purely and simply me saying my favorite Rocky films from 1 to 6. I am excluding Creed, and obviously Creed 2 because I haven't seen it yet. I'm dying to see Creed 2. I love Creed. Well, I'm hoping I'm going to love Creed 2, but this is purely and simply the Rocky franchise I'm going to be talking about today on Movie Chat and More. Oh, by the way, my name's Richard. I'm not sure if I said that. Anyway, let's crack on. My favorite Rocky film is Rocky 2. That's my personal favorite Rocky film, Rocky 2. Sylvester Stallone, Carl Weathers as well, let's face it, Muhammad Ali, Apollo Creed, I mean, the characters. When Stallone wrote Rocky in 3 days, he had just been to see the Muhammad Ali Chuck Wepner fight. Some kind of cinema, CCTV, whatever. And let's face it, Muhammad Ali is, well, Apollo Creed, his character is very similar to Muhammad Ali's. And I do believe Sly, even though I never heard him say it, personally, but Sly based, in my eyes, Apollo Creed on the character of Apollo on Muhammad Ali. So my favorite Rocky film is Rocky 2. Now, of course, I'm not giving anything away to anybody here because we've all seen the Rocky films, right? Just in case, spoiler alert. This is the redemption, really, of Rocky. He is going for a rematch with Apollo Creed in Rocky, the original Rocky. Rocky Balboa versus Apollo Creed. It was supposed to be, what do they call it? An exhibition. An exhibition. That word's going to come up later. More, believe me. Exhibition. Apollo Creed in Rocky wanted to wanted to fight somebody because every ranked contender, something had gone wrong. One of them was injured, one of them was out of town, who knows, I can't, it's been a while since I've seen the original Rocky movie. So yeah, Apollo Creed wanted to defend his title because he knew he didn't have a ranked contender. He wanted to defend his belt, his strap against a local boy, some unknown, and that unknown turned out to be the Italian Stallion, or as Apollo puts it, the Italian Stallion. I love that. I love that. Yeah, and Rocky in the first Rocky film goes the distance. He goes to 4 15 rounds with Apollo Creed, and in the first round even knocks Apollo Creed on his ass for the first time in Apollo's career. So yeah, Rocky 2 continues with that story, and Apollo is really pissed off at Balboa lasting the distance. Nobody has ever gone the distance with, just making sure the video doesn't cut. I'm just making, yep. Yeah, Apollo is really pissed off that Rocky even dared go the distance with him in the first movie. And this movie takes place a year later. after the events of Rocky 1. And so, yeah, Rocky has got a bit of money from his fight with Apollo Creed, and he seems to know what he wants to do with it. He proposes to Adrian earlier on in the film, and they get married. And Rocky kind of goes on a shopping spree, buys himself some new clothes, buys himself that car, and a house, which is, very important. And it's nothing like the character of Rocky has ever seen before, because in the original film, he's living in this excuse me, in the original film, Rocky is living in this downtrodden, unbelievably unkept apartment. So yeah, he's got this big house, he's got this flash car, but things start to degenerate. He gets a job, which, it's hauling meat in a local meat factory, where his now brother-in-law, Polly, brother of Adrian, obviously, works. But the thing is, Polly's not working there anymore. So I love this transition, because in the first Rocky film, Rocky is a debt collector, working for a guy called Garzo. Garzo, yeah. That's his name, And in Rocky 2, they switch. Polly starts working for Garzo as a debt collector, and Balboa is now working in the meat factory where Polly was working in the original film. It's kind of a funny trend. I like the way they did that. It's cool. Not necessarily funny. Well, in a way it is, but it's cool. Yeah, so, and then of course Apollo Creed being so pissed off that this nobody had the audacity to go the distance with a guy who's never been beat. He had the audacity to do that. He's getting hate mail saying, the fight was a fix, you're a fix, go kill yourself, and all that business. So Apollo is desperate for a rematch in Rocky 2. And he gets it. And, spoiler, I feel stupid even saying that. This film is old. Yeah. But anyway, yeah, Apollo gets his rematch. The fight goes nearly the full 15 rounds. And it comes to the epic climax where they hit each other, Apollo and Rocky, at the same time. And they both go down, and they're both trying and struggling to get up and everything. I still remember watching that film as a kid, not knowing that Rocky was going to win, because, I was a kid. Should have known better, even at that age. I think I was about 6 or 7 years old the first time I saw Rocky 2. But it's tense. Even I must admit, even now I know the result. When I watch the climax of Rocky 2, and you got Apollo trying to get up on one side of the ring, you got Rocky trying to get up on the other side of the ring, trying to beat the count of 10. Even now, I know who's going to win because I've seen it. Different when you haven't, but I was a kid. Come on. But yeah, even now it's still tense. It's still tense. And of course, Rocky gets up. He wins the heavyweight championship of the world, and that's that. Some people would argue that's where they should have left it. Rocky and Rocky 2. Come on, guys. Come on. If you're one of the people that believe they should have ended the franchise there, you're nuts. These films made so much money, and that's what it's about. Okay, Rocky 1 and Rocky 2, arguably the best films in the franchise. No doubt about that. Rocky 2 is my personal favorite. Like I said, I'm not ranking these films in a professional order. I'm just saying which is my favorite and going along. But they couldn't start there. Rocky 2 made a fortune at the cinema. It made massive. I wish I had at hand just how much, the box office takings and everything like that, because there was always going to be a Rocky 3. There had to be. And the way they carried on in Rocky 3, I think, is very clever. However, It's not my favorite, excuse me, it's not my second favorite Rocky film. My second favorite Rocky film, yeah, Rocky 4. 1985, yeah, Rocky 4. I mean, some people say it's their guilty favorite, or it's, out of the franchise. Oh, I love Rocky 4, but I tell everybody my favorite is Rocky. Why? Look, I'm not ashamed to admit Rocky 4 is my second favorite in the franchise. The soundtrack is un-effing believable. Uh, the redemption story of Rocky continues, but it goes even further in this one. It's very Hollywood. Now, I'm not going to argue that. This film, as from Rocky 3, Rocky 4, Rocky 3 and Rocky 4 are the most Hollywood of the franchise. No doubt about it. No doubt about that. Rocky 4, quite poignant, even more so now because the new Creed film centers on Ivan Drago's son. But I'm getting ahead of myself. Let's talk about Ivan Drago. He's an Olympic boxer, unbeaten, and he comes to the United States of America as an ambassador of goodwill. And he wants to fight Rocky. Well, I say he wants to fight Rocky. He's got his entourage around him, and he's kind of like a dummy for them. Remembering this film was made in 1985 during the Cold War. And did Stallone take advantage of what was going on in politics at that time when he made Rocky 4, when he wrote Rocky 4? Of course he did. And thank God he did, because this film it's brilliant. It's out of the franchise, the redemption story. We got Apollo Creed. Let's take a few steps back. Ivan Drago is in the United States to fight Rocky. Apollo Creed hears about this, and he ain't too happy. Apollo steps in. He's like, hey, Rock, he wants to be the one. Because he's been away from the ring for 5 years, he wants to be the one to bring down this new Russian guy and make them look bad for a change. Balboa's got he's got his worries about this fight because nobody really knows anything about Ivan Drago. They know he's an unbeaten Olympic champion, and that's basically it. The press get to know of Drago's strengths. I was going to say weaknesses, but he hasn't really got many. Apart from, he's cut, the Russians cut. But yeah, that's one of my favorite lines in all Hollywood history. Yeah, it is. Yeah, so Apollo gets into the ring with Ivan Drago, and he is beaten, not just beaten, he's murdered. And there's no doubt about it. They told, the Russian entourage told Ivan Drago, don't go out there and beat this guy. Go out there and kill him. And that's what Ivan Drago did. To this day, I haven't seen Creed 2 yet. We know Dolph Lundgren comes back as Ivan Drago. I need to poke myself in the eye. But I do believe to this day that Ivan Drago was told in Rocky 4, 1985, to kill Apollo Creed, and that's exactly what he did. Okay, the fight's ridiculous. The referee being pushed out of the way by Drago when he tries to step in, that wouldn't happen. No, but let's face it, this is Hollywood, and like I said, Rocky 3 and Rocky 4 are the two most Hollywood of all the Rocky films, in my personal opinion. So yeah, Ivan Drago kills Apollo Creed, and of course, Rocky wants revenge. The thing is, if he wants to fight Drago, the fight has to take place, I think, at least 2 years later, if the fight is going to be sanctioned by the American Boxing Committee, something like that. So it becomes an unsanctioned fight, and they will only fight Rocky in Russia. So Rocky goes to Russia and he trains. We all know about the epic training scenes. They're fantastic when you got the music and he's running up the mountains. It's in Serbia, I believe. Is it Serbia? I'm probably not. Correct me if I'm wrong. Comment down below. And yeah, he's training to fight this seemingly unstoppable Russian fighting machine. And yeah, the training sequences in this film, you got Hearts on Fire by John Cafferty during one training scene. Brilliant song. Some people say Rocky 4 is 3 or 4 music videos pushed together with a subplot. Now, I don't really adhere to that, but I know where they're coming from. The music video scenes in this film, the training sequences are brilliant. And even during the fight between Drago and Rocky at the end, we hear the music entitled War. War by Vince DiCola, I think. And it's great. It's awesome. It's you got this. I was gonna say Little Rocky versus Ivan Drago, and he's huge. He's huge. And it's like this fight would never have been sanctioned because these guys are obviously in different weight divisions. But that's the point. Rocky wavered that. He gave up his championship belt to Apollo Creed's grave. He wasn't the champion anymore. He just wanted to get redemption. That word comes along quite a bit in the Rocky franchise. Redemption. He wants redemption. He wants revenge because this guy purposely went into the ring to kill his best friend Apollo Creed. And the fight sequence at the end between Rocky and Drago is out of this film world. Out of this world. It's very Hollywood, like I keep on saying. Rocky 3, Rocky 4 are the most Hollywood installments in the series. But the fight sequence is great. I've heard stories of when this film excuse me. I've heard stories of when this film was out in cinemas in 1985 of people literally jumping out of their seats in the cinemas and, giving it all that. Come on, Rocky, 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 Rocky. What an atmosphere to be around. I would love to have been there. I was only 5 years old, so I wasn't. But yeah, Rocky 4 is an Apollo Creed's entrance. It's sad we know how the fight ends, but Apollo's entrance with James Brown doing his stuff and living in living in America, one of my favorite songs in the entire franchise. Like I said, when it comes to soundtracks, you can't beat Rocky 4. Not really. Well, actually, you can't. Anyway, Rocky 4, my second favorite in the franchise. My third favorite is Rocky Balboa. Rocky 6. I have heard some people say this was just the original Rocky done again. Here's what I have to say to that. Bullshit. Absolute bullshit. Look, the original Rocky film, look, I know where the comparisons are coming from, okay? From, Rocky and Rocky Balboa. I know where the comparisons are coming from, but to say Rocky Balboa is just Rocky done again, it's ridiculous. It's absolutely ridiculous. The original Rocky saw a guy who's 30 years old. He's a local club fighter. Hasn't really got a whole lot to live for, to be honest. And he's in love with this lady who works in the local pet store, and that's that. And he gets this once in a lifetime opportunity to fight for the heavyweight championship of the world. Now, Rocky Balboa is nothing like that. In Rocky Balboa, Rocky 6, Adrian has passed away. She's sadly gone. And Rocky owns a restaurant called Adrian's. Established, I think it says, when you see the sign outside the restaurant, established 1993. So that would mean Adrian died, I'm guessing, in 1993, 3 years after Rocky V. 1993. Of course, Rocky Balboa was 2006. In Rocky Balboa, this guy is not a down on his luck club fighter with an aggressive manager, if you want to call him that, or this guy has seen it all. He's been there, done that, won a t-shirt. Yeah, he is. The comparisons make sense because, yeah, he's not this Hollywood superstar anymore. He's living in Philadelphia. He's got this restaurant. But let's face it, he's earning a shitload more money in Rocky Balboa than he was in Rocky. And it's not just that, his entire lifestyle is different. So when people make their comparisons, I know where they're coming from. But on the other hand, the films are completely different. And in Rocky Balboa, he knows he's still got something in the tank. Rocky being, well, in real life, Rocky would have been 60 years old in Balboa. But I think they make him out to be in his 50s somehow. I'm not sure quite how they get away with that, because there's a scene in the original Rocky film, 30 years prior, 1976, Rocky, where he says to Polly, I'm 30 myself, so surely that would make him 60 now. We can forget that. We can let that slide. We can let that slide, can't we? Anyway, he's still got some stuff in the basement, as he calls it. In the basement. Here. And he's talking to Polly, who's back at the meat factory, still working at the meat factory. And he's basically telling Polly he's still got some stuff inside. He's stuff in the basement. And Polly thinks it's a joke. He's like, nobody's giving you no title shot. And Rocky's basically like, no, I don't want one. And then you have the conflict between Rocky and his son, Rocky Jr. And when he wants to fight, and we all know this scene. We all know this scene. We all know this speech. And it's one of the legendary speeches in Hollywood history, in my opinion. Yeah. It ain't about how hard you hit. It's about how hard you get hit and keep moving forward. How much you can take and keep moving forward. Very, very inspirational speech. That speech is on t-shirts. It's on YouTube video thumbnails, I'm guessing. That speech is iconic. And that's what he says to his son, because his son doesn't want Rocky. He doesn't want his dad to fight anymore. It's like, don't you think you're too old? And it's going to take, I've worked all my life trying to get out of your shadow. You're a big shadow in my life. And now you're going to do this. And I start to get ahead. And now you're going to do this. And you're going to put me basically back in your shadow. People look at me and they see you. And that's when Rocky gives the very inspirational, classic, iconic speech. If you know what you're worth, go out and get what you're worth, but don't be pointing fingers saying you ain't where you want to be because of him, her, or anybody. Basically, don't blame me. That's basically what he's saying to his son, among other things in that speech. Yeah, I used to hold you up right here. I used to say to your mother, this is the best kid there's ever going to be. So he says a lot to him in that speech. And of course, the heavyweight champion of the world in that film is, what's his name? Come on. Don't leave me hanging. I'm gonna have a look. This is stupid. I know these films so well. And Mason Dixon, yeah. Antonio Tarver, of course, yeah, played Mason Dixon in Rocky Balboa. He did a great job. He's not an actor, not that I know of, and he did a great job. The first time I saw Antonio Tarver was on the boxing reality TV show that Sly did, and he's a pro boxer. Anyway, in this movie, he's the world heavyweight champion, but nobody respects Mason Dixon. Mason the Lion Dixon. Everybody's like, when's he going to fight someone who can fight back for a change? So again, we talk about that word redemption. Kind of. Because Mason Dixon feels very underrated, underused. Look, I'm a good boxer. I'm the heavyweight champion of the world. Why is everybody taking this out on me when all I'm doing is fighting the people you put in front of me? Anyway, in Balboa, as you probably already know, but I want to shoot the breeze today, so I'm going to talk about it anyway. There's a computer-generated fight. I think it's done by ESPN, something. They put this fight together, and it's a computer fight, between Rocky and Mason Dixon. What would happen if this fight, with Rocky in his prime, Mason Dixon in his prime, which he is right now, who would win? Now the computer has Rocky as the winner. Rocky sees this, Mason sees this, and it sparks off the entire final fight scene. I'm not going to say it sparks off the entire film, because before that fight even happens, the computer generated fight, it's a great film. It's brilliant. It's so full of I was going to say drama, but that makes it sound melodramatic. There are melodramatic moments in Rocky Balboa. Nostalgia. That's one of my favorite words at the moment. Nostalgia. Rocky goes back. Apparently he's been doing this every year since Adrian died. That's the vibe I'm getting. He goes back to certain places. Polly comes along. He goes back to his old broken down apartment where he was living in the first Rocky film. And you kind of see, I want to say ghost. It's not a ghost of Adrian, but it's what he's seeing. He's on top of the steps, looking down where Adrian was standing. Very clever bit of movie making, bearing in mind Stallone wrote this film and directed it. And he's talking out loud. He's got all these memories, and all I wanted her to do was trust me. He's talking about Adrian, obviously. Very shy. And Adrian was, of course, as we all remember. And he's standing at the top of the steps with his old front door. All I wanted her to do was trust me. And she did. She did. And Polly's not too happy to be there. He's done this tour, as they call it. I think they call it a tour. He said the same thing last year, Rock. He's not happy to be there. And there are so many poignant scenes in this film, but that I could go on about. But I want to pick this one, just this one, for now. And that's the scene where Rocky is finally wondering, Polly, what's your problem? Because they go to where the ice rink used to be in the original Rocky film. They go back there, and it's gone. It's been torn down. Polly's happy about that. Polly is like, I'm glad they tore this place down. No matter where they go, Polly's not happy to be there. And it comes to a point where Rocky turns around and says to Polly, what's your problem, Polly? What's your problem? And that's where Polly begins to explain, you two had good memories. You treated her right. I treated her bad. I don't have to think about any of this. And Rocky points out, she always loved you, Polly. Adrian always loved you. But Polly goes off, and I can see where he's coming from. You know, he did treat Adrian like shit. There's no doubt about it. But he always loved her. And yeah, she always loved him. When I say treated like shit, I'm on about like Rocky and Rocky 2. And things changed. You know, when it went Hollywood, things changed. Very poignant scene. And Polly walks away, and then Rocky goes back to his old bar, and there's so much more. There's so much more I could say about this film. The final fight scene between Rocky and Mason Dixon. Rocky loses, and Mason Dixon wins the fight. It was a 10-round exhibition fight. I told you that word would come up again, didn't I? Exhibition. It wasn't for Mason's title. But Rocky's happy. He's happy because he went the distance. And that's another reason why people make comparisons between the original film and this one, because it's all about going the distance. If you remember in the original film, Rocky says to Adrian, all I want to do is go the distance. No one's ever gone the distance with Creed. I want to go the distance. And so, yeah, I understand why the comparisons are made. But hey, guys, there are so many. It's not the same film done again. No way. No way. And the final scene, the fight scene between Dixon and Balboa it's good. It's very good. It's strong. It's very intense. Is it the best fight sequence in all the Rocky films? It's up there. It's up there. Rocky 2, Apollo versus Rocky 2, that's my favorite. And then again, my second favorite fight scene is probably Rocky 4. Very, very over the top and everything else over the top. But hey, over the top, it's a Rocky movie in itself. Well, it's a Stallone movie. Over the top, a Stallone movie. And a brilliant film. Anyway, guys, we got 3 Rocky films left. This is my 4th favorite film, and it is When We Go Hollywood. It's Rocky 3. Rocky 3, 1982, written by Stallone and directed by Stallone. Yeah, I don't. Rocky Balboa, he's been the heavyweight champion of the world for, I don't know, a couple of years, yeah? He's beat Apollo Creed, and then all of a sudden, Rocky defends his championship, and he wins his fight. We see this in a montage at the beginning of the film with Eye of the Tiger playing in the background by Survivor, which, let's face it, is the Rocky song. Eye of the Tiger is the Rocky song. It was going to be another One Bites the Dust by Queen, but apparently there was some kind of disagreement, and Freddie Mercury of Queen, don't quote me on this, but I don't think Freddie Mercury of Queen wanted that song in the film. Maybe it was something to do with money, maybe it was something to do with something else, I don't know. But anyway, thank God, because even though that song is great, Eye of the Tiger is now an inspirational song. It's the Rocky song. Yeah. So I'm not, thank God we didn't get another One Bites the Dust, because I don't think that song would have lasted. The longevity of how that song motivates people, Eye of the Tiger, me included. I don't think another One Bites the Dust by Queen would have been so poignant. I don't think it would have lasted. It has lasted as a song, but as a Rocky anthem, I don't think it would have done as well as Eye of the Tiger by Survivor. Now in Rocky 3, like I said, he wins his first championship defense. We see this in the montage at the beginning with that song. And he's beating everybody with extreme ease. It's like, excuse me, where's the challenge anymore? he's knocking out Rocky with the championship. He's buying in the montage. We all know that Rocky 3 montage. Yeah, he's buying motorbikes, he's buying houses, he's doing commercials. All of a sudden, he can speak in commercials. He can do commercials very well. Isn't that weird? But yeah, in Rocky 3, where we go Hollywood, truly the first film to be what I like to call a Hollywood movie. And yeah, he's beaten these guys one after the other, until he's defended his championship 10 times. But there's one guy watching these fights. Apart from Mickey, his manager, there's one guy watching these fights, and that's Clubber Lang, played by Mr. T. The first time I think Mr. T introducing, the credits at the beginning, it says introducing Mr. T. So I'm guessing this is the first time Mr. T was ever on camera. Definitely before the A-Team, where he played the brilliant B.A. Baracus. So, yeah, Mr. T's watching these fights. Clubber Lang, I should say. He's watching these fights, knowing that Rocky's taking on bum after bum after bum. And he knows he can beat this guy. Well, he knows he's got a good chance. Well, in his head, Rocky would have no chance against him. So, there is, right at the end of the beginning montage, just after they show you the epic climax of Rocky 2, the montage begins. You got the fireworks and the Eye of the Tiger plays in the background. They show you what Rocky's doing now. He's doing very well for himself, right? Clubber hates this because he knows, hey, I've got a chance of beating this guy. And we see Clubber training. He's pushing himself to the physical limits. Clubber is training to fight Rocky, and not just fight Rocky, destroy Rocky, which he does. And in their first fight scene, because Rocky is given, I say given, he's saluted with the now iconic, the statue outside of the Philadelphia Art Museum, where the steps are situated, where Rocky runs up and down, Well, he runs up. But, yeah. Anyway, this statue is unbowed. Yeah. And there's a big hoopla with the press and fans, everybody there, and Rocky says, I'm going to retire. And Clubber Lang is there. And he's basically like, getting out while you can. You don't want to fight me. You ain't got the guts. And Rocky persuades Mick to train him one last time. But let's face it, in this film, Rocky doesn't really train. The training done by Rocky in this film is because he's quite arrogant in this film. Balboa is quite arrogant in Rocky 3. He's had all these easy fights. And even Mickey tries to tell him in his infinite wisdom that these guys were handpicked. Hey, Rock, these guys were handpicked opponents so you could keep your championship as long as possible. This guy, Clubber Lang, is a wrecking machine. I quote, Mickey, a wrecking machine. Anyway, Rocky doesn't train. You got the press there. He's got the heavyweight champion of the world, trains here. And he's there, he's got girls kissing him, he's got Adrian looking jealous, he's quite arrogant about his abilities in this film. In a way, you probably would be, because he's got no clue that these opponents, these 10 guys he's beaten since beating Apollo Creed for the championship, were hand-picked bums. So anyway, the fight comes along. Just before the fight takes place, Mickey has a heart attack and passes away. But he doesn't die before the first fight between Rocky and Clubber. He's very ill. Rocky knows that. It throws Rocky off. And he says to Adrian, as he's about to go out to the ring, take care of him. Take care of him. his mind is gone. He can't focus on a fight with anybody, let alone someone like Clubber Lang, who is a wrecking machine. So he gets his ass kicked. Round number 2, knockout. And Clubber Lang is now the new heavyweight champion of the world. A little bit later on in the film, Rocky feels guilt. Itchy nose. Happens in a lot of my videos. Anyway, yeah, Rocky knows, well, he feels he's pushed Mickey into this position. Train me one last time. Even though it wasn't really a training session. It was a glorified training session with cameras there and God knows what else. So yeah, that whole is very poignant. And just after the fight, Rocky comes to where Mickey has been taken and Mickey dies. And then along comes Apollo Creed, to push Rocky, because Apollo knows Rocky wasn't Rocky in that fight. He was at ringside commentating. One of my favorite lines in the entire series, again, and one of my funniest lines, delivered by Carl Weathers as Apollo. He's commentating on this fight that's about to take place, and he says Rocky's going to win. And one of the other commentators say, do you really think the champ can hit that hard? And Creed is like, why do you think I'm sitting down here with you? I love that scene. I love that scene. Anyway, Apollo Creed comes back to train Rocky in a different way. He takes him to where he was trained, back to Los Angeles. Very mean streets of Los Angeles. And at first, Rocky doesn't give a toss. He feels guilty about Mickey. He feels like, for the first time in his life, he's afraid. He's afraid. And it takes Adrian, a very dramatic scene in the film, it takes Adrian to tell Rocky, hey, on the beach scene, hey Rocky, I love the scene, by the way. You know, what's wrong with being afraid? You know, there's nothing wrong with being afraid. Rocky says, there is. For me, there is. There is a problem with me being afraid, you know? But she manages to talk Rocky round. They've got a training sequence coming up, and it's great. It's Eye of the Tiger without the lyrics, I believe. And he's getting there. And we've got the famous beach one between Rocky and Apollo, the chase scene, if you want to call it that. And Rocky overtaking Apollo on the beach, and it's down in slow motion, and they collide in the surf with a big, there's a big, what do they call it, bromance going on here, and it's great. And of course, in the build-up, because Apollo knows Rocky can't outlast this guy. If you're going to beat Clubber Lang, you've got to beat him quickly. And I think Apollo comes up with a plan with the guy who passed away a couple of years ago, the guy who trained Apollo, Tony Duke. You know who I mean. You know who I'm talking about. We got to take him out early. We got to take him out early. They're watching the first fight, and he says, we got to take this guy out quick in the first 3 rounds. And that's what Rocky does. He beats Clubber Lang. He fights like Apollo Creed because he has been taught how to fight Apollo style. And instead of just going in there with, punching the living shit out of his opponents, he goes in there and he's jabbing, he's flicking away, and Clubber Lang doesn't know what's hit him. I do believe in the first round of that fight, I don't think Clubber Lang's one punch. And it's great. It's great. I don't like the way the fight ends so quickly, but for the plot, it had to. So yeah, that's my next favorite Rocky 3. I could go into detail even more so, but for the sake of time in this video, I'm not going to. That's my next favorite. My next favorite in the series is the original Rocky film, 1976. Yep. If you don't know the story, I think I've already touched upon it. You probably already do if you clicked on this video. Sly Stallone had done bit parts. He had done bit parts in Hollywood. Nothing really. Nothing major. There are rumors he did some kind of porno, but I don't know if that's true. Comment down below and let me know if you know that's true. It's not something I really want to look into. But yeah, he didn't. You know, this film came about. Stallone went to see the Chuck Wepner Muhammad Ali fight, where this Chuck Wepner guy lasted, I think, up until the 14th round. He didn't go the distance with Ali. The fight was stopped in round 14. But Chuck Wepner was supposed to be knocked out in round number 1. So he saw this fight, he came home, he wrote what he says, a thing. A thing. He didn't write the script of Rocky in 3 days. He wrote the idea. And he was taking it around from studio to studio, something along those lines. And everyone, they were not, I don't think a lot of people showed much interest until I think it was MGM. But even then he said, look, I'm playing Rocky. They said, no. We've got other people to play your part. We've already got the antagonist, Apollo Creed. We've got other people. We've got other people in mind. James Caan, for instance, to play Rocky. We don't want you playing Rocky. He said, look, if I'm not playing Rocky, you're not getting the rights to my script. He stuck by his guns. And he didn't have a dime to his name at this time. God knows how he even had a roof over his head. Maybe he didn't. He had a dog, and the dog, Bunkies, appears in the Rocky films. But the weird thing about that is, Stallone always says about his dog, he had to sell his dog. And somebody, an interviewer once said to him, you sold your dog? You actually sold your dog? And Stallone says, well, it was either that or eat him. So, couldn't have been Bunkies, could it? Anyway, that's where the whole Apollo Creed versus. I talked about this part of the franchise earlier on in this video, so I don't have to go too much into detail now. Apollo is due to defend his championship. All the contenders, the number 1 contender, number 2 contender, number 3 contender, they've all got legitimate reasons why they can't fight. So Apollo comes up with the idea to fight a nobody, and that nobody ends up being Rocky. Some of you may be thinking, how can this not be my favorite Rocky? Look, it's probably the best Rocky film ever made, with Rocky 2 arguably. But it's not my personal favorite. But it's a great film. It's gritty. It's real. I absolutely love Rocky, but it's not my favorite. And my final favorite of the series, which I'm not going to talk about too long because I know you guys are just going to switch off. The majority of you, anyway, probably will switch off. You know what's coming. Rocky 5. Yeah. This is where we see Rocky train Tommy Gunn. Rocky's been told he can't fight anymore because of a brain injury, brain damage, and it's irreversible. He can't fight anymore. So, and he goes broke in Rocky 5. He's Polly has made some very shady deals, and because of those shady deals, Rocky has gone broke. So he goes back to Philadelphia, to where he used to live. He's kept that home. Him, Adrian. I don't think Polly's living there, but you do see Polly quite a lot in Rocky's home. And you got this young kid, he's down and around, and and he knows Rocky, he knows Rocky's history. Tommy Gunn, played by the late great Tommy Morrison, yeah? And he wants Rocky to train him. At first, Rocky's like, no, I'm not interested, kid. But then he does. Excuse me. Anyway, yeah, Rocky trains Tommy Gunn, and he trains him very, very well. But while he's training Tommy Gunn, he starts to ignore his own family. His son in this film, played by Sage Stallone. I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing that right. Is it Sage or Sage? I think it's Sage. Sage Stallone, who passed away a few years ago, very sadly. Stallone's son in real life. Anyway, yeah, so that's he trains Tommy Gunn. Tommy Gunn ends up turning his back on Rocky. and he goes with the Duke. uh, the Duke, which is an obvious ripoff of, Don King. We all know who that character's supposed to be. Very much like Apollo and Muhammad Ali. Not dissing the films for that. I'm just saying it's obvious where the Duke came from. It was Don King, basically, in my opinion, in my personal opinion. And anyway, this guy gets his hands on Tommy Gunn in this film, and takes over the contract and everything else. And this guy wants Rocky to fight. Right at the beginning, right at the beginning of the film, Rocky comes back from Russia. Yep, the flight took 5 years. It's an old joke. Come on, let's move on. In 1985, Rocky 4, 1990, Rocky 5. Yep. And his son has suddenly aged tremendously. Like, he's aged, 6, 7 years in a few months or a couple of months. But who cares? I don't care. It don't ruin the film for me. I know Rocky 5 is the black sheep of the family. People hate this film. They despise this film. I used to think it was because Rocky went broke. He made his money, multi-millionaire. He fought hard. He beat the best there was. And then he lost it all. Now I can understand that. As it turns out, the majority why a lot of guys and girls don't like this film is because Rocky doesn't fight at the end. Well, he does. He does fight at the end. He fights Tommy Gunn in a street fight because the Duke, I can't think of the guy's last name, but he fights in this film, but it's not a fight in the ring. It's a street fight between him and Tommy Gunn. And Rocky wins the fight, and that's that. So guys, I hope you've enjoyed this video. I've certainly enjoyed making it. Thanks very much for tuning in. I want to do another Rocky video where I go into each film into a little bit more detail, but not right now. Certain points I want to touch on when it comes to especially Rocky 5, because I do believe that film is misunderstood on so many levels. So I want to go back on that a little bit. And maybe do another video about the original Rocky film, because it was all entwined in this one with the franchise. I just wanted to rank the Rocky films in order, starting with Rocky 2, my personal favorite, to Rocky 5, which I actually like a lot, with the other ones in between. But I will be making another Rocky video soon. I'm not sure when. There will be videos in between, probably. I want to recollect my thoughts about this series, and I'll do another video about Rocky, real soon. So guys, I'm just going to stop recording here. Thanks for watching. I really appreciate that. I really do. This has been Movie Chat and More. My name is Richard, and I'll see you all again very soon. Take care of yourselves and one another.